Happening now on Grid Tonight. A former Formula One driver will make his first NASCAR start this weekend at the Brickyard. What should we expect from the first Russian driver in history scheduled to compete in one of NASCAR's top 3 series? There's been more fallout from Pocono with another significant penalty. Will this kill Michael McDowell's momentum in what has been so far one of the best Cup Series seasons of his career? Matt White's here with your grid history update. Chip Ganassi Racing and Alex Palou have battled others on the track together, and soon they may be battling each other in a courtroom. With the team suing Palou, will the sides be able to continue remaining professional and complete the rest of the season without falling apart? Hello to all our viewers watching here in the United States and around the world. Welcome to Grid Tonight, your weekly motorsport news program. I'm Ben Schneider, and with me is Kobe Lambeth from the Podium Finish. A special shout out to our Patreon supporters, Colin, Mark, Deshelle, and Robin. Thank you for investing in Grid Network. Follow the link to our Patreon in the video description below, and please feel free to comment in the chat room as well, ask questions, and engage with us in the discussion. But let's kick off tonight's show with an international XF1 driver coming to NASCAR's Cup Series.
Yes, and we've talked about him in recent weeks, testing a late model at Hickory Motor Speedway, and now ex-F1 driver Daniil Kvyat is ready to race in the NASCAR Cup Series. He'll make his debut this weekend on the IMS Road Course, driving a second entry from Team Hezeberg, the number 26 Toyota Camry TRD, the same number he used during his Formula One career. Kvyat will be teammates with Loris Hezemans, who's driving a number 27 car. Kvyat says he's always been passionate about racing in NASCAR, and it sounds like he's thinking long-term as well, adding he hopes to be in position to contend for wins and championships in the future. Coming to NASCAR wasn't originally in the plans at the beginning of 2022. The Russian driver was scheduled to make his debut in the 24 hours of Le Mans and compete in the FIA World Endurance Championships LMP2 class with Roman Rusanov's operation G-Drive Racing. However, Russia's invasion of Ukraine changed everything, with sanctions affecting G-Drive and the FIA deciding to ban Russian drivers from racing under the Russian flag, including exclusion of Russian symbols or their national anthem. As a result, Rusanov decided to cancel the WC program, leaving Kvyat looking to race elsewhere. According to Racer.com, NASCAR representative told them there aren't any restrictions on Russian drivers in NASCAR. A few weeks ago, Kvyat attended the Cup race at Road America as a guest of Team Hezeberg and a spectator. Now he'll be a NASCAR Cup driver for the first time, visiting the Brickyard as well, his first time there, and trying out an entirely different discipline of motorsports. What are some reasonable expectations for Kvyat's Cup debut, and how steep will the learning curve be coming from the world of Formula One?
Well, Kobe, first of all, I want to applaud NASCAR for not going the route of the FIA and not banning all Russian drivers from competition. Of course, this is not the war of Russian racing drivers on Ukraine. This is the war of the Russian government and Vladimir Putin invading Ukraine. And I completely disagree with the idea that all Russian drivers should be banned from competition. I know Joshua Birch was saying the same thing on our Grid Live Encore show when the invasion first happened. So I'm glad Kvyat has this opportunity to continue to compete and race in NASCAR, and I love seeing drivers try different disciplines. I think we're going to talk about this a little bit later on in the show, but it wasn't that long ago where we saw a whole trend of open-wheel drivers, IndyCar and F1 drivers coming over to try NASCAR, and Daniil Kvyat, I think, is going to try to follow in their footsteps here. It sounds like he's quite serious about this, testing a late model at Hickory and going so far as to do that really shows that he's going to be dedicated to try to do well. He is driving an open car for a brand new team, so I think some reasonable expectations are probably just going to be to run all the laps and finish as well as he can. Although now that I'm saying it, the IMS Road Course was won by an open car last year. Of course, Colleague Racing a little bit higher up, I think, on the ladder in terms of ranking of Cup Series teams nowadays. But I think for Kvyat, a reasonable expectation would probably just be, like I said, to run all the laps, gain as much experience as he can, try to stay out of trouble. If you want to put a ceiling on his run, I think a top 20 would be an absolutely great day. Obviously, Kvyat's got a lot of experience as a racing driver, but we do have to remember it is a completely different car than what he's used to and what he raced for so many years in Formula One. Got to think maybe the transition will be a little bit easier of a next-gen car. There might be a little bit more overlap, but there's still not very much overlap between a NASCAR stock car and a Formula One car. So I think for Kvyat, the best thing he can do is just try to go out there, gain experience, and continue to build on that for any future starts he might make in the Cup Series or in NASCAR in general.
Yeah, Ben, I totally agree with everything you said. Run on all the laps is going to be key, and I think a realistic finish for him, like you said, run all the laps, and I think a top 30 finish would be a solid day for Danny Kvyat. I'm not really sure what the capability of Team Hezeberg's potential is. I mean, Loris Asmus, he's done the best he can with that equipment in a few starts this season, but I'm not sure if that team can reach as high as a top 20 finish. But who knows? Last year's IMS Road Course race got really crazy, especially when the curve came up and we saw those cars sliding off the track. So it very well could be another race of attrition. And if Kvyat misses all the trouble, he could come home and bring a good finish. And it's really nice to see how strongly committed he seems to be in NASCAR. Yesterday I was looking at an article on motorsport.com about Kvyat, and he told motorsport.com that he doesn't see anything cooler right now than NASCAR, and he wants to make NASCAR his home. And I guess he'll really start to get serious if he buys a home, or I wonder if he already has bought a home in North Carolina. To try to live down here, and he was certainly getting integrated in NASCAR culture by testing that late model at Hickory Motor Speedway. And Danny Kvyat's been a NASCAR fan for a long time, and it's really nice to see him really embracing this. But if he's serious about competing for wins and championships, and this is, obviously no disrespect to Team Hezeberg, this is a team, and it's still in its infancy, a really young team in the NASCAR Cup Series, is first year in competition. I think he'll probably have to go to a more competitive team if he truly wants to get down the path of winning races and championships in NASCAR competition. Also, probably be a good idea for him to make starts in ARCA, trucks, and Xfinity as well, to keep building on that experience. Maybe that should be a goal for him next year, to run races in all of those series before trying to move up to the Cup Series full time. And yeah, that learning curve is certainly going to be steep, but if he buys in, works really hard, anything is possible. Maybe we'll see Danny Kvyat do some really great things in NASCAR. And as far as the door in Formula One, in that motorsport.com interview, he said he'll never say never, but he's putting all of his energy into becoming a NASCAR driver now. And speaking of motorsport.com, they also reported that Danny Kvyat will run all remaining road course races on the NASCAR Cup Series schedule this year, starting with the IMS Road Course this Sunday, then Watkins Glen and the Charlotte Roval later in the year. That would mean two former F1 competitors racing against each other in NASCAR, Kvyat and Kimi Räikkönen, who will be making his Cup debut with Trackhouse Racing's Project 91. Ben, during our first few years following NASCAR in the mid to late 2000s, we saw more crossovers with open wheel drivers trying out NASCAR. And some examples: after his F1 career ended, we saw Jacques Villeneuve make several NASCAR starts over the years, mostly on road courses, and competing in the Daytona 500 earlier this year. We can't forget Juan Pablo Montoya departing McLaren in F1 and going to NASCAR with Chip Ganassi Racing, winning two Cup races at Sonoma and Watkins Glen, then an Xfinity race at Mexico City. Sam Hornish Jr. left behind a highly successful IndyCar career. He won 3 IndyCar championships and an Indy 500 win. Switched to NASCAR at Team Penske, struggled a lot in Cup, but his most successful years in NASCAR were in 2012 and 2013 with Penske's Xfinity program. Like Hornish, Dario Franchitti gave NASCAR a try and returned to IndyCar shortly after a brief stint in stock car racing. Now, 2022, SRX champion and longtime IndyCar driver Marco Andretti has been teasing a possible run in the Xfinity Series, and the photos in this section courtesy of G Drive and Room Brothers Racing. Ben, does it seem like more open wheel racers are trying to jump to NASCAR again? Is there a reason for NASCAR to feel very optimistic about attracting talent outside of stock cars?
I think so. And I've got to say, I think one of the reasons you saw that happen in the mid to late 2000s was probably because IndyCar was still in the final years of a split. They had just reunified with Champ Car and the IRL in 2008. So I think, the sport was still recovering from that, the sport being IndyCar racing, American open wheel racing. And at the same time, you had NASCAR, which was really surging in the mid 2000s. I think 2005, 2006 are some of the highest rated seasons when it comes to TV and attendance for NASCAR. So I think a lot of open wheel drivers, particularly IndyCar drivers here in America, whether they're American drivers or international drivers competing in this country, they saw the fame and fortune of stock car racing. I think Danica Patrick is another perfect example. You want to bring up Elio. I remember watching Fox Sports broadcasts in 2008, 2009, and there were rumors that Elio was maybe even interested in trying NASCAR. Tony Kanaan, I think, met with Joe Gibbs Racing in the mid-2010s, to maybe explore some things if he had gotten shuffled out of the IndyCar series. So there's always been a couple of drivers that have tried to make the transition. Of course, I think Tony Stewart is certainly the most successful in terms of the modern era. We can't forget, obviously, Montoya has a couple of Cup Series victories as well, and a very talented driver in anything that he's ever stepped into. But it's going to be very interesting to see how Kvyat and Raikkonen do. Who would have thought that just a couple of years ago, when they were still racing each other in Formula One, that they'd be racing against each other now in something completely different in the NASCAR Cup Series. But I think it might be a good sign for NASCAR, like you were saying as well, Kobe. You know, I think because the last time we saw this, I think NASCAR was certainly in a much better state than it's in now. But it was on the rise when American open wheel racing was on the decline a little bit with the split and still trying to build itself back up. Maybe it's a sign that NASCAR, at least in the eyes of the international community, is on the rise again. So I think this is only going to do great things for NASCAR to maybe even bring in a bit more of an international audience as well. You know, I remember when Fernando Alonso tried the Indianapolis 500 in 2017, the ratings for the Indy 500 in Spain were up close to 800, 900%, I think. So maybe the ratings internationally in Europe as well, seeing names like Kimi Räikkönen and Daniil Kvyat, who competed in F1 for so many years, try their hand at NASCAR. I think you're going to have some new fans tuning in to the road course races as the season goes on here.
And Ben, we're going to break out of this section for a moment because we have some major breaking news to share, something that's happened right now, and that is Camping World announced that they're going to be ending their sponsorship of the NASCAR Truck Series. And in a statement just put out by Marcus Lemonis, he says, "What an amazing opportunity it's been. 14 years, over 30 race entitlements, over 35 drivers sponsored, and some of the best fans one could wish for. Thank you, NASCAR. Marketing and sponsorships continue to build and expand our Camping World business, but it's the people that work in the business every day that make it go and grow. In acknowledging what matters the most, our people, we have made the decision to relocate those marketing dollars towards increasing the income and benefits of our people. From my perspective, there is no money better spent. Signed, Marcus Lemonis, NASCAR fan for life." So Ben, I know we've talked about this in past shows on Marcus Lemonis potentially pulling out, and now it is official. Just happened just moments ago. So what's your reaction to that major breaking news story of Camping World ending the entitlement sponsor of the NASCAR Truck Series?
What? I mean, I know I said I had no words on Sunday when we got the news of a disqualification, but wow, the Mad Lad actually did it. I said, you know, the way the Truck Series was going, the way Fox Sports was treating the broadcasts, and NASCAR I think was treating the Truck Series as well. There were just some factors that, you know, I've said on these shows in the past year. You know, if I were Marcus, I wouldn't be a fan of how my product that I'm sponsoring, that I'm paying to be shown here, is being presented. But I did not see this actually coming. I thought it might be a possibility for other people who might have not been in the sport as long as they have. But Marcus has talked time and time again about how you know, Camping World was $1 billion company when he first started the sponsorship, and now it's a $4 billion company. I think that was a few years ago when they rebranded the series to Gander for a couple of years. So it's probably even gone up in value since then. But I mean, this is very, very shocking news to me, and I don't think that's good news at all for the Truck Series, because I'm just trying to think off the top of my head here. You know, I can't see Menards stepping up and sponsoring, considering they already have the ARCA Series and the East and West divisions. You know, I know Johnny Morris and Bass Pro Shops pour a lot of money into the sport, but you know, the only thing I can think of is maybe got to give Craftsman a call. I know they've gotten back into sponsorship a little bit with Joe Gibbs Racing, and I think they've been on Haley Deacon's truck a couple of times as well. But you know, this is absolutely a shocking development that's going to send shockwaves throughout not just the Truck Series, but the entire sport as well. I mean, Camping World has been so loyal in regards to NASCAR, and I don't know that Marcus is. I mean, I'm just trying to pull the statement up here. It looks like Adam Stern tweeted it out. Marcus is saying there is no better money spent, and obviously he has a lot of deals with individual race teams to sponsor trucks and cars as well. So we'll see if he ends up pulling out of the sport entirely here, or if it's just the Truck Series that he's sponsored for so many years. But you know, that this is there we go. We got the statement up there. Just yeah, it's very very shocking, and it's 2 shows in a row here where we've gotten some major breaking news in the middle of a show and had to try to react to it. But this is absolutely crazy, and we'll see what this means for the future of the Truck Series. The amount that Marcus has poured in over the last several years, I think, has played no small role in keeping the Truck Series alive. When you think of the race purses and the budgets of the teams that are in it, I remember Brad Keselowski saying, when he shut his truck team down, he lost $1 million on operating the team in 2014, and that you have to be able to run at a losing effort if you're going to be competitive in this series. And the way the economy is right now, it's going to be very difficult for me to see somebody stepping up at this point of year. We'll see where the future takes us here, but this is I don't know. I think this is not a good day for the Truck Series and not a good day for NASCAR.
And it's crazy, man, because we were literally just talking about NASCAR being optimistic about Danny Kvyat joining the series and all of this buzz about international drivers trying to come into the NASCAR Cup Series and just NASCAR in general. And on that front, there's a lot for NASCAR to be excited about. There's a lot of interest, and we could potentially see Elio Castroneves running the Daytona 500 next year. No, SRX CEO Donald Hawk is really working the phones, trying to help Elio put together a deal so he can live out his dream of racing in NASCAR's premier crown jewel of event and just race on a stock car in general. So that is really something to be excited about. But as far as Camping World pulling out of the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series, it's a massive shocker. I did not see this coming. I thought this would be something that would be announced like towards the end of 2022, be like 2023 is our last season. Give NASCAR an entire year to find out. Hopefully, Lemonis gave NASCAR months and months of notice so they could begin working on something for next year. But a lot of things for next year. They typically start a couple of months ago working towards 2023. And this announcement of Camping World pulling out, as you were saying, Ben, with the state of the economy right now, I think it's going to be a little difficult for NASCAR to try to find somebody who's going to sign on. And I don't want to say on short notice, but 2023 is going to be here, but before we know it, and I'm honestly just at a loss of words that Camping World is pulling out. And I know, and like I said, you've talked about this on our shows in the past. Like, is Marcus Lemonis going to decide to invest his money elsewhere? And tonight, I guess he answered your question. Yes, he decided to invest in his people, as he said in his statement.
And I've got to give my Grid Live Encore co-host Brandon Crossland a lot of credit as well, because we were talking about this after the Eldora, or not the Eldora, sorry, the Knoxville truck race, and just how it was presented by Fox Sports and the on-track product that we've seen the last couple of years. That this might be a possibility, especially when you consider Marcus has been in this for the long term. It's not like he's a new sponsor coming in and he's going to give it a couple of years. I mean, everybody who's a NASCAR fan by now knows the Camping World and Gander Outdoors brand and knows what Marcus has done for the sport. I can't say I blame him. Maybe we'll get more news in the coming hours and in the coming days here later this week as to why this decision was made. But I think ultimately, when you consider how long he's been in the sport, 14 years now, I think, going back to 2009, this is the 14th season with the Truck Series, and even longer before then with he sponsored the East and West Series at some time as well, and has been involved sponsoring teams and drivers much longer than that. All good things must come to an end, and I think it's been a very good partnership that has been great for the Truck Series. But Truck Series isn't easily going to have that anymore. And like I said, I'm trying to think of brands that could fill back in. Maybe you call Craftsman, try to get a reunion together, but it's tough for me to see it.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's tough to see Craftsman's trying to come back. I remember growing up when it was called the NASCAR Craftsman's Truck Series, and that would certainly be a throwback for me when I was a young viewer of NASCAR. If they decided to go back to that brand, but I don't see that happening right now. But stranger things have really happened, and we have to give credit to Marcus Lemonis for the investment he made in the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series. He's really done a lot, and gone above and beyond to make a lot of things happen, especially for a lot of drivers who were looking for sponsorship to try to raise those, and a lot of those feel good stories. Unfortunately, when Marcus pulling out of the Truck Series, those feel good stories may not happen anymore. Like Todd Bodine, without Marcus Lemonis, Todd Bodine wouldn't have been able to reach 800 starts in the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series, and there's another handful of drivers he sponsored with Camping World, Good Sam, and all of that over the years as well. Drivers who wouldn't have been able to compete in those events if it wasn't for Marcus Lemonis. So this is a major, major loss for the entire industry.
I know Marcus is a little bit polarizing on Twitter sometimes, but Kobe, you're absolutely right. Just what he has done for so many teams and drivers, and obviously the entire truck series as a whole, is nothing short of incredible. And like I said, I know we got more of a show to get to, and I'll get into the follow up here in just a moment. But it's a tremendous loss for the truck series, assuming they're not going to be able to find a replacement sponsor super quickly here. Obviously, they have an entire off season to be able to do that. But it's just it's still I almost don't want to believe it. I thought Marcus was committed to the sport for a long time, and he always has been. I thought he would at least continue to like you said, Kobe, maybe sponsor through 2023 or announce that he was ending the deal following a future season. But at the end of this season, NASCAR certainly got to work overtime to try to find a sponsor for the truck series here. And again, the economy the way it is, I think it's going to be quite a tough task here for NASCAR going forward. So we'll continue to follow that and monitor that story. I'm sure we'll talk more about that on the Encore show on Monday, since the Truck Series is one of the series that Brandon and I usually cover on that show. But right now, let's get to some sports car news regarding the 2024 BMW LMDH WEC program. It was previously announced that BMW would build an LMDH car to debut during the 2023 season in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, with a two-car factory lineup with BMW M Team RLL. But in 2024, they'll enter the BMW M Hybrid V8 in the FIA World Endurance Championship and return to the 24 Hours of Le Mans, going for the overall win. BMW's newest prototype started their on-track testing program recently at Dallara in Verano de Meligari with BMW factory drivers Connor De Filippi and Sheldon van der Linde. De Filippi said it's an honor and a pleasure to become the first driver to get behind the wheel of the car, calling it a historic day, and BMW was able to run some laps at nearly full power by the end of a test day. BMW plans to ramp up its testing program significantly in the weeks and months ahead of the LMDH's debut in January 2023 at the Rolex 24 at Daytona, and the photo on your screen is courtesy of BMW Motorsport.
Yeah, really nice to see that BMW is going to be going back to the 24 Hours Le Mans and a WEC program in the second year of the BMW M Hybrid V8 program. And 2023 going to be racing in IMSA full time, and then next year they're going to add a second program in the World Endurance Championship. And I'm sure all of the people that are working at BMW are really excited to see this program come into play. And following up on a major story that broke on Sunday night when we were live on the air doing Grit Live wrap up. So in recent days had some major breaking news happen on Grit Live wrap up and tonight on Grit Tonight. And Denny Hamlin and Kyle Busch, who came across the finish line in first and second, were disqualified after the race, giving the race win to Chase Elliott, who wasn't thrilled to win that way, and even said that Denny Hamlin could just keep the trophy. I guess Chase doesn't really consider that a legitimate win. And NASCAR found an issue with the lower fascia, the bottom part of the nose that attaches to the splitter. Joe Gibbs Racing decided not to appeal the penalty, and here's what they had to say. Joe Gibbs Racing said, in our review of the post-race infractions on the 11 and 18 cars at Pocono, it was discovered that a single piece of clear tape was positioned over each of the lower corners of the front fascia, ahead of the left front and the right front wheel openings on both cars. The added pieces were 2 inches wide and 5.5 inches long, with a thickness of 0.012 inches, and installed under the wrap. This change in our build process was not properly vetted within our organization. We recognize it is against NASCAR rules. We apologize to everyone for this mistake, and we have made changes to our process to ensure that it never happens again. And courtesy of Bob Pockers from Fox Sports, here's the statement from TRD's David Wilson. Said Toyota and TRD are disappointed with the disqualifications that came at the end of Sunday's Pocono Cup Series race. However, as we've stated throughout the next-gen process, we applaud NASCAR's hypervigilance when it comes to policing the rules on this new race car. And we've been in close communication with Joe Gibbs Racing, and they have acknowledged that the tape added to the front fascia, the number 11 and number 18, were not permissible by NASCAR rules. We stand by the team's decision not to appeal the disqualification. Also continue to stand by NASCAR's efforts to keep the playing field fair for everyone competing in this series. And we thought we were finished discussing penalties from Pocono until yesterday afternoon. NASCAR issued an L2 level penalty to the number 34 Front Row Motorsports Ford Mustang and driver Michael McDowell for modifying a single source supplied part. The number 34 will lose a total of 100 owner points, and McDowell loses 100 driver points. This will drop McDowell from 20th to 26th in the championship standings. His crew chief, Blake Harris, was also fined $100,000 and suspended for the next 4 races, with only 5 races to go until the playoffs. If McDowell wins the race and makes the postseason, he'll get docked 10 playoff points. After Hamlin and Busch were disqualified, McDowell got promoted to a 6th place finish at Pocono that he'll definitely get to keep since the results were official beforehand. Earlier in the year, following the Atlanta Spring race, Brad Keselowski was issued a similar L2 level penalty for modifications made to the rear fascia of the number 6 Ford Mustang, and this penalty comes at an unfortunate time for McDowell, who's having one of the best seasons of his Cup Series career, 1 top 5 and 8 top 10 finishes. For the most part, McDowell is typically the strongest at the super speedways and road courses, but he's been performing well at other types of tracks too, like 9th at Bristol Dirt, 8th in the Coca-Cola 600, and 6th several days ago at the Tricky Triangle in the Pocono Mountains. But today, Front Row Motorsports announced they'll be filing an appeal. Right here, a statement saying Front Row Motorsports continues to assess the penalties levied against the number 34 NASCAR Cup Series team and the circumstances leading to the issues with the team's car after the event in Pocono this past weekend. FRM has initiated the appeal process with NASCAR and will have no further comment until after the process has reached a conclusion. Your Front Row Motorsports signing off on that penalty there. And after getting off to the best start statistically of his Cup career, how big of a blow is this penalty to Front Row Motorsports and McDowell, assuming they don't win the appeal? I guess the good thing is during the appeal process, he'll get to have Blake Harris on the pit box this weekend in Indy.
That is a good thing. And of course, obviously, like you said, Kobe McDowell is kind of known as a road course specialist and super speedway specialist as well. But yeah, I mean, this is massive. This is a massive, massive blow for Front Row Motorsports. I don't think McDowell would have been a championship contender, but I do think he could have been more of a dark horse than he was last year. Last year, of course, he won the Daytona 500, and everybody kind of knew that where Front Row Motorsports were as an organization last season, it was almost given and a certainty that he was going to be out in the first round of the playoffs, just kind of making it on virtue of his Daytona 500 win. This season's been different, though. Like you mentioned, Kobe, this is easily the best season of McDowell's career in NASCAR, and Front Row Motorsports, I got to think as well. I know they've won a couple of races in the past, but Michael is doing about, I would say, better, actually, than anybody in that 34 car has done over a full season, thinking of some of the names like Chris Buescher and David Reagan that got previous wins in that car. But when you take Michael's season as a whole, it has been absolutely spectacular by Front Row standards, and it's shown that they, I think up until this week, had an argument for most improved team in the NASCAR Cup Series. That being said, I hate to kind of be cynical here, but you're almost wondering if maybe one of the reasons they've been running well is maybe they've gotten away with some of these modifications for so long. And obviously now, assuming they don't win the appeal, I can't imagine that they would. I know it's very rare. We have seen it happen sometimes, but it's rare for teams and drivers to win appeals like this in this sport. I wonder if not just, from the modifications to the car, but also just, kind of as a morale thing, if the team's not going to be as motivated going forward, and you might see a little bit of a dip in performance there. I see we have a comment in the chat room. When Raikkonen debut NASCAR Cup Series at Watkins Glen, well, I think you might have answered your own question there. It's happening in just a few weeks' time at Watkins Glen with Trackhouse Racing and Project 91. But we appreciate the comment, and please leave any questions or comments you have in the chat room, especially with the breaking news regarding the Truck Series and Marcus Lemonis seeming to end his sponsorship after this season. But getting back to Front Row, just to give a bottom line answer here, Kobe, I think it's absolutely massive. And, I don't see Front Row winning this appeal. And I think Michael McDowell's performance is going to suffer, not just from not being able to get away with these modifications, but also, to lose 100 owner points and 100 driver points. There isn't a much stiffer penalty in NASCAR than that. And, it's really kind of shot their season down. I'm afraid it's going to be hard to recover from this.
Yes, and as I mentioned, the similar L2 level penalty that was issued to Brad Keselowski still hasn't recovered from that, and this happened during the very, very early stages of the 2022 NASCAR Cup Series season. Brad Keselowski, his season hasn't really been the best overall, but he certainly would have been a lot up, a lot higher in points if it wasn't for getting docked a whole bunch of points, just like Michael McDowell did. But I'm sure front row's hoping they're gonna win this appeal. But like you said, Ben, the appeal process, you're more than likely you're not going to win that. We've seen teams win appeals before, but so few and far between. I honestly expect front row is probably not going to win this, but seeing how strong Michael McDowell and his crew chief this year, Blake Harris, have been working together, they have excellent chemistry. And with Michael McDowell's performances on the road courses this year, really good runs at Sonoma and Road America, you have to think that with this team, this car, this driver, that if something crazy happens, they can potentially play spoiler, go out there, still a win, and get into the NASCAR playoffs. And based on what we've seen on Michael McDowell and road course, I think that it could be a possibility. I don't think Michael McDowell is going to be everyone's top pick to try to win the race at the IMS Road Course, but I certainly think he can get a top 10 finish if the previous road course races are any indication of what this team can do. But as far as the appeal, I can see wanting to have Blake Harris on the pit box, keep this team together for a very, very important race. And the only downside to this is you lose the appeal next week, and then Blake Harris is gone for the rest of the regular season. And then you have Watkins Glen, a road course that Michael McDowell can do really well at, potentially still a win if things go really, really crazy. And then we know Michael McDowell is a really solid super speedway racer, so he could very well go out and get another win on the high banks of Daytona if all of the stars align. So a real interesting decision here for front row to appeal, especially if they lose, like I just mentioned. Blake Harris might be gone for the rest of the regular season if they end up losing.
Yeah, and I can tell you, having been there this year at Sonoma, I know Daniel Suarez got all the credit with Trackhouse for picking up his first win, but McDowell was right there at the end as well. Had a very solid run, and has had a lot of very solid runs all season long. So, like I said, absolutely massive blow to that team, and we'll see what they can do this weekend. This might kind of be their last chance and last ditch effort. And I guess I shouldn't say that because anything can happen at Daytona, and Michael's won there before as well. But this might be their last weekend with their crew chief. For the regular season, like you said, Kobe. So I think front row is really going to take a turn down in performance, and it's unfortunate because we've been talking about them all year having the best season of their career and the best season of Michael's career, but it's all come to a crashing halt right now after this announcement of this penalty. Now let's follow up on some news regarding Kurt Busch. Of course, he missed the race at Pocono this past weekend with concussion-like symptoms. 2311 Racing replaced Busch with Ty Gibbs in the number 45 Toyota Camry very last minute, and the Xfinity regular finished 16th in his unexpected NASCAR Cup Series debut. Now, he will be back out at IMS. He has not yet been cleared by NASCAR to compete. 2311, Kurt Busch, and Ty Gibbs all released statements. We'll show them to you now. 2311 says, following medical evaluations after his wreck at Pocono Raceway last Saturday, Kurt Busch has not been cleared by the NASCAR medical team to return to competition this weekend at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Road Course. Ty Gibbs will once again fill in for Kurt in the number 45 Monster Energy Toyota Camry TRD. Kurt's health is of the utmost importance to the team, and we wish him all the best as he prepares for his return. Kurt has been granted a medical waiver from NASCAR and remains eligible for the playoffs. The team will not be making any further comments about the matter at this time. And Kurt, of course, released one of his statements as well, saying, after undergoing further medical evaluation this week, I have not been cleared to race Indy at this time. I remain dedicated to focusing on my recovery and getting back on the track, and will continue to work closely with NASCAR's medical team and my own team of doctors. I'm thankful to 2311 and my sponsors for supporting me and also putting my health first, and to Ty for stepping in to race for number 45 Monster Energy Toyota Camry TRD. I am proud of his debut and know he will represent the 45 well again this weekend. And Ty Gibbs also released a statement of his own. I'm happy to help out 2311 Racing this week at Indianapolis, but again, our thoughts are with Kurt and getting him healthy. He's a good guy, and we all want him back soon. I like road course racing, and I think we'll have a solid Monster Energy Toyota Camry TRD this week. I think the goals are just the same as last week, just to complete the race and learn all we can. I want to thank Denny and MJ for the opportunity. Signed, Ty. Next, here's Matt White with a grid history update.
Matt White here. It's that time of the week again for your weekly dose of updates, results roundup, grid history, and the Endurance Performance Index. We'll start with the results, and we'll start here in the UK. where after the summer break for British Superbikes, they were back in action at the weekend, and a triple for Yamaha for the McCams Yamaha team. Jason O'Halloran winning on Saturday afternoon in the sprint race, and 2 wins on Sunday for defending champion Taron McKenzie, getting himself back potentially within a shot of getting to the Superbike playoffs at the end of the season. At Iowa, we had 2 IndyCar races. Joseph Newgarden dominated both of them. He won on Saturday, but crashed out on Sunday, and get well soon to Joseph. Hopefully he's back in action on Saturday at Indianapolis. Pato O'Ward coming through to win for Arrow McLaren on Sunday. Indy Lights were in action as well over the weekend, and Hunter McElroy got the win on Saturday in the searing heat at lunchtime. His second win of the season. In France at Paul Ricard, good weekend for Red Bull supported drivers. Max Verstappen winning the Grand Prix, Liam Lawson and Oyumo Iwasa winning the F2 races, and of course Jamie Chadwick won in the W Series. That's now 7 for her in a row. At Pocono, the Truck Series regular season concluded. Yes, in July, Chandler Smith was the winner, and Zane Smith was crowned the champion of the regular season, playoffs starting in a couple of weeks' time. Noah Gragson won Saturday afternoon in Xfinity, and with those double disqualifications for Gibbs, Chase Elliott picked up the victory in the Cup Series. Before we look at the EPI, just a reminder to check out grid_history on Twitter. Every single day we post a motorsport memory from the past, and hopefully a link from the Grid Video Vault to said race. Today we spun all the way back to 2008, and the last win in the DTM for Mr. DTM, Bernd Schneider, at the Nürburgring for Mercedes. He wouldn't know it then, but it was his 42nd and last victory in the class. EPI then, couple of races last week. Here is the top 10. It has not changed from last week because the scoring races that we had from the weekend have made no difference to the top of the standings. None of those guys at the top were in action over the weekend. We did have a couple of races at Watkins Glen for GT World Challenge America. Jan Halen and Charlie Luck winning on Saturday in the Porsche, and Colin Braun and George Kurtz winning on Sunday for the Mercedes team. And in Japan, the second round in 2 weeks for the Japanese GT World Challenge variant. They were at Fuji this week, and like last weekend, Kai Cosolino and Takeshi Kimura won on Saturday, but on Sunday, Nick Foster and Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim with the victory. As I said, no changes to the top 10. None of those guys were in action. In fact, none of the top 20 were in action last weekend. So a couple of weeks of downtime for the top end of the EPI, but there's a big one this weekend. One of the crown jewels of the season for endurance racing, the Spa 24 Hours, kicks off on Saturday afternoon. Absolutely massive field, and it should potentially give us some changes in the EPI standing. So that to bring you next week on a massive weekend with British touring cars, Formula E in London, the Hungarian Grand Prix with its support package, and much, much more. We'll bring you all of the results, an EPI roundup, and a check on grid history on next week's show.
Thank you, Matt. And the Alex Palou contract saga continues. First reported by the Indy Star on Monday, Chip Ganassi Racing filed a lawsuit in the Marion County Superior Court in Indiana. Ganassi is officially suing Palou after signing with McLaren, while the team claimed they exercised their option to retain Palou for the 2023 season. And courtesy of Adam Stern from the Sports Business Journal, here's the official statement from Chip Ganassi Racing. They said that Alex Palou is under contract with Chip Ganassi Racing through the end of the 2023 season. He is a valued member of our team, and we will continue to support him in chasing wins, podiums, and IndyCar championships. As the result of a competing racing team improperly attempting to contract with him, notwithstanding the clear terms of our contract, we are proceeding to legal process pursuant to the contract. So statement right there from Chip Ganassi Racing. And we predicted this would end up in a courtroom, and here we are. At the early stages, Palou and his number 10 CGR Honda team are still expected to show up and race together this weekend at the IMS Road Course, NASCAR IndyCar doubleheader weekend. To Palou's credit, he's done a magnificent job not letting this become a distraction and remaining focused on trying to win back-to-back IndyCar championships. However, the latest development with the lawsuit is going to generate even more noise in the media about his contract situation. Not to mention it's going to be more awkward now that he'll be racing for the team that's taking legal action against him in civil court. And the photo you see right there on the screen, taken by Joe Skabinski from Penske Entertainment. So this situation has escalated a little bit, but can't really say that we're surprised by this right here. Ben, do you think Alex Palou will be able to continue blocking out the noise and remain focused, or will the lawsuit be too big of a distraction for him?
Well, first, I've got to give Josh credit because he called it as well on this show. I mean, was it just last week? I mean, everything has happened so fast here. It's been a crazy couple of weeks here in the racing world. But he said that this was probably going to end up in court. And look at this. Here we are. Chip Ganassi is suing Alex Palou. And, who would have thought this just a year ago when they were celebrating an IndyCar Series championship, and Palou looked to be the heir apparent to Scott Dixon at that team. And now here we are with a major distraction to answer the question, Kobe. Like I said, I don't see how Palou is going to be able to get around this. He's done a commendable job so far, but I think especially now that a lawsuit is taking place, it looks like they're going to end up in a courtroom, that's going to be inevitable. I think now that especially it's gotten to this point, it's just going to be too much. I mean, how awkward is this? Palou has to go out and drive this weekend for a team that just announced that they are suing him for a breach of contract because they think they have him under contract for next year. And then I don't know what happens if Ganassi wins this lawsuit. Do they have, I mean, they're going to keep Palou in that car for 2023. How awkward is that going to be, employing a driver that clearly wanted out, that you sued to keep in your car, and he's stuck with you for the next season and a half? I mean, what is that going to do to Palou's confidence? And, is he even going to be motivated to want to try to perform well for a team that's literally suing him for what's going on here with McLaren? So it's an incredibly awkward situation at best. And given all the circumstances here, I don't see how Palou can repeat as IndyCar Series champion. You've got his teammate Marcus Ericsson and his other teammate Scott Dixon as well, right there in the championship fight. I've got to think Ganassi are putting all of their resources and effort and maximum power towards those two cars rather than Palou's car at this point. And then obviously it being a distraction, I think that's got to mess with Palou's confidence at least a little bit, especially now that it's at the point of a lawsuit. So to answer the question, I think it is going to be too big of a distraction. I don't think he's going to be able to continue blocking out the noise entirely. And I do think you're going to see it affect his performance on the track.
Yeah, likely to affect his performance on the track. And like I said, massive credit to Palou so far for being able to remain professional about this. Well, I guess in front of the cameras, at least we obviously don't know what goes on behind closed doors. But a lawsuit now, I'll just say this. I'm really happy that I'm not Alex Palou right now, because this is a really, really difficult and awkward situation to be in. I'm not really sure how you can, go meet with your team to talk about the car, everything going on the track, try to go in there, do your job, especially with this going on in the background. If somebody was suing me like this, I wouldn't want to be buddy with them and working together. I'd want to be as far away as I could from them. And this is super unfortunate that this situation is happened. Palou's done a real great job so far, but I think this lawsuit is certainly going to weigh him down a little bit. And like you said, Ben, this situation, it really could start affecting his performance on the track. So it wouldn't surprise me if he goes into a slump to end out this year, assuming Palou is going to be able to complete the IndyCar season. And as far as we know, Palou is going to finish out this year with Chip Ganassi Racing. Then whatever happens next year is totally up in the air. So a real messy situation that's continuing. And before we continue our IndyCar section, got an update on this breaking news story that we've been talking about of Camping World pulling out of the NASCAR Truck Series. Adam Stern from the Sports Business Journal said that NASCAR has known for quite some time that Camping World wasn't coming back. So that addresses the questions we were just raising earlier. If NASCAR had noticed, and it's good to hear from Adam Stern that NASCAR has known for quite some time they were not renewing, so they've been able to ask around. And we've also been wondering about going back to Craftsman, and Adam Stern says the leading candidate to replace Camping World is Craftsman, so we could see the return of the NASCAR Craftsman's Truck Series. Ben, if you wanted to respond to that.
Well, I think that would be very fitting. Like I said, I don't think there's anybody better, to get a reunion with than the sponsor that used to fund the series. I guess that wouldn't be an option in the Cup Series, right? They surely would not go back to Winston and with the bans on those kinds of sponsorships and everything. But it would be nice to see the Craftsman Truck Series name come back. And it's been great to see Craftsman come back to the sport a little bit in recent years. And I think, if there's an opportunity for them to kind of get the band back together, if you will, like I said, it's very difficult for me to picture anybody else being a leading candidate at this point in time. Who knows? Maybe somebody will emerge and surprise us and kind of come out of nowhere. But, I got to think if Craftsman's on board, then NASCAR should totally take that opportunity. And I think it would be very fitting for Truck Series fans, particularly like you and me, Kobe, because, I know we both got into the sport around 2007 in that time period. And that was right when Craftsman's run was coming to an end. Of course, the Truck Series was still very young back then. But Camping World, for the vast majority of the time that we've been following, has been the sponsor. It would be quite a throwback to hear the Craftsman Truck Series name again.
Yes, certainly quite a throwback, and we'll continue to follow this story in the days, weeks, and months ahead until we get an official announcement of who's going to replace Camping World as the entitlement sponsor. And as you just heard, according to Adam Stern from the Sports Business Journal, their leading candidate is the NASCAR. Is Craftsman, and they could potentially become the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series once again. And getting back on topic to IndyCar, Jenna Farr from the Associated Press said that Chip Ganassi told her he wants Adam. Oh my goodness! And sorry, got a little tongue tied there. He wants Alex Palou to be in his car, and he wants to win races and championships, and he's not talking to other drivers. This comes after Jack Binion from the race reported that their sources told them Ganassi doesn't plan to continue with Palou next year, regardless of the final outcome with the contract dispute. Some fans are starting to see Palou in a different light. During the race at Toronto a couple of weeks ago, Palou's current teammate Marcus Ericsson made a comment on the radio when the two got close together on track, saying, "I know he wants to prove a point." Meanwhile, his other teammate Scott Dixon previously criticized Palou for how he handled this whole situation with Dixon, said this is not how he would have handled it. Is the ongoing situation really hurting Palou's image with the fans and possibly his peers inside the IndyCar paddock?
Unfortunately, I think it is, Kobe. And, there's something else. I don't know if we brought it up on the grid shows just yet here, but there was something that came out again last week regarding Alex Palou on social media. There was a very strange YouTube channel that was discovered. It had 150,000 subscribers, which for a driver of Alex Palou's following, obviously being a series champion with fans internationally, him being from Spain and obviously racing here in America, you might think that might not be an unreasonable number if he had this channel for a while now. But it was very strange. The channel only had 3 videos on it. They were all very recent. They all had, I think, under 1,000 views. So it wasn't getting much engagement. And you're wondering where these subscriber numbers were coming from. Somebody plugged the channel into the Wayback Machine, the Internet Archive, and it appeared that somebody had bought the channel off, basically, or at least edited it to look as if it came from Alex Palou and his management and his social media team, that they were inflating their numbers and could maybe pitch to sponsors that, hey, Alex has a channel with 150,000 subscribers and we could mention your names here. And it would be great for social media and brand engagement. So that was just another layer of this whole drama that's gone on with Palou and obviously the whole situation with McLaren and Ganassi. And I've been thinking, even more about the situation since we were on air last week. Palou, as I mentioned, has been the best driver in that 10 car since Dario Franchitti. He just won a championship. Why on earth would he want to leave a situation that had just gotten him a championship, that had very nearly gotten him an Indy 500? I think a lot of people forget that. He was right there in that battle with Elio Castroneves last year at the 500 for a team that is unequivocally one of the top teams in the IndyCar Series, 3 of the last 4 series championships. Why would he leave that to go to McLaren, who are, obviously making some noise in the IndyCar Series, but haven't been back for as long? They're partnered with the Schmidt-Peterson team, the former Schmidt-Peterson team, which has had some runs and some race wins that have gone well in the past, but doesn't have the history of Ganassi. Why would he leave a sure thing at Ganassi for McLaren? And I keep going back to what that original McLaren announcement stated. It didn't make clear which series they had signed Palou to. Alexander Rossi's statement made it clear he's with Aero McLaren SP. He's going to be an IndyCar driver. So the wheels are turning in my head. I can only think that maybe McLaren did something crazy like guarantee Alex Palou a Formula One drive, or at least a reserve driver role or a test role to set him up for 2024. But why on earth would he leave a successful organization and a successful partnership like Chip Ganassi Racing for a McLaren IndyCar drive. It doesn't make much sense to me. I have to think that McLaren were promising something even bigger and better for him to be willing to try to buy himself out of his own contract, I guess, and take this deal with McLaren for 2023. But it is an absolutely incredibly messy situation. And to draw it all back, Kobe, I do think it's hurt his image, certainly in the paddock, but also with the fans as well. I don't know if fans think that they can trust Alex Palou anymore with statements that he or his management put out.
Yeah, my thinking is along the same lines as you, Ben. The only reason I think Alex Palou, risks ruining his reputation in IndyCar and potentially torpedoing his IndyCar career is for Formula One. This is really the only reason I could see a driver leaving such a really comfortable, good situation. Like you were saying, Alex Palou's been the best driver of the 10 car since Dario Franchitti was in that ride. And I can argue, Tony Kanaan had a couple of good seasons in that car, but not to the level of Dario Franchitti. So I think Alex Palou, as we've been talking about, could have potentially been the next Scott Dixon. When Scott Dixon retires, we thought Palou was going to end up being the team leader for like the next decade or so, and now blowing up the entire situation. It's certainly really troublesome to see this happen. Like we were saying, it's going to be hard for a lot of the IndyCar fans to trust Alex Palou, because I know a lot of IndyCar fans, they really want to see a driver who's committed to their series, a driver who wants to be there, not just using these series as a stopgap, and so you can be here for the time being and then go on to something else. And that's why I think the only reason why Alex Palou, I get some people that call this the nuclear option, like blowing something up. The only thing I can think of is that maybe McLaren said, Alex, you're gonna replace Daniel Ricciardo next year alongside Lando Norris and a McLaren Formula One program. That's really the only realistic thing that I can think of. Palou making such a decision to get in a messy dispute right here with Ganassi and McLaren, and it's so unfortunate because so many people have had nothing but good things to say about Alex Palou. That they said he's such a nice guy, great person to talk to and be around. And now seeing all of this going on, and how how this situation has really become public. Obviously, seeing how messy it is, not really sure if he's getting the proper advice. It's just super unfortunate that this thing has happened overall.
And before I go into the next follow-up here, I have another update that I've just seen on the breaking news regarding Marcus Lemonis and Camping World pulling out of a truck series. The Athletics' Jordan Bianchi said, I spoke to Marcus Lemonis a few hours ago about Camping World no longer serving as Truck Series entitlement sponsor, and he told me no decision had been made. That apparently has changed, as Lemonis tweeted. Camping World is out at the end of the year. Kobe, I know you were mentioning that NASCAR had said that they had been aware of this for quite some time now. Marcus Lemonis actually responded and said, we both know that's not how the conversation went, but I'm sure you appreciated me sending you a DM and calling you back within an hour as you requested. So apparently some tension between Jordan Bianchi, the Athletic, and Marcus Lemonis himself. Now, I've seen another tweet that says Marcus is going to be on Sirius XM NASCAR radio with Claire B. Lang at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. So that's right now in 5 minutes from now. So I'm sure we're going to have more updates as the night goes on here regarding Marcus's decision to pull out of the Truck Series sponsorship. But some more, it's interesting to try to follow this all in real time here. A lot of stuff's going on. So stay tuned as we continue to update you all on what's going on that side of the motorsports world. Now let's draw it all back to the IndyCar Series and give a brief update on Joseph Newgarden. Tomorrow we'll know whether or not Newgarden will be competing in this weekend's IndyCar race on the IMS Road Course. Newgarden is expected to be evaluated by the IndyCar medical staff on Thursday after losing consciousness and falling at Iowa, sustaining a cut on the back of his head. A hospital in Des Moines kept him overnight for observation and released him the next day. If Newgarden is not cleared to race, he'll be replaced by Santino Ferrucci, who's entered in the NASCAR Xfinity Series race with Sam Hunt Racing on the same day at the same track. And now I think we'll sorry, Kobe. I thought you were leading that section. Now we'll go into the pick a winner here. We have some more races coming up before the next time we'll be on air. We have a W Series at Hungary and a Supercars race as well. As you take a look at the leaderboard, Kobe, you are leading the pick a winner standings, and I have some work to do to catch up to you. So let's see if I can do that right now. But first, I'll pass it over to you. Who do you have winning the W Series this weekend?
Well, I think I'm going to go for another easy point. Think she's going to continue her streak. I'm going to go with Jamie Chadwick to get another W Series victory.
I like that grab. I don't know if that's you or Joe that came up with that, but Chadwick has absolutely been dominating the W Series, like we mentioned. And as I said, I still don't think she sweeps the season. 10 races is a lot to ask, but you got to get halfway there before you can get all the way there. And who am I to bet against Jamie Chadwick to do it again this weekend in Hungary? So I will go with you as well and pick Chadwick to win in the W Series. Now over to Supercars, the Bend Super Sprint Race number 1. Kobe, who do you have winning that race?
I'm going to go with another easy point. The driver who's been the most dominant this year in Supercars, SVG, Shane Van Gisbergen. I think he's going to get the job done at the Bend Motorsport Park.
Yeah, I think, Chadwick is the go-to pick in the W Series, and SVG is certainly the safe pick in Supercars as well. So I will also go with you on that one. So I guess either way, I'm not going to be gaining any ground because either we're both going to be right or we're both going to be wrong in both of these series here. So I guess I'm not going to make up any ground on that one. I might have to go to some other series and make sure I don't pick the same as you so that I can try to close the gap a little bit. But I will go with SVG to win in Supercars as I usually do.
I haven't been doing well and pick a winner lately. I've been getting points here and there. So I'm going to try to get some momentum back, try to get some easy points here, and try to build my lead as big as I possibly can. And we're out of time for tonight's show. So please be sure to like and subscribe to Grid Network here on YouTube. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. We encourage you to take 5 minutes after our show and consider joining our Patreon, invest in Grid Network to keep us on the air well into the future. Do you want to buy me a coffee? Click the link in the video description below and you can buy a drink for your favorite on-air talent here at Grid Network. Big thank you to Edward Hunter from formerly Young, Amber, and Zachary for buying us a coffee. We greatly appreciate it. Any amount will continue helping us grow our motorsports media outlet. Visit public.com, also known as the stock market social media home. The link below and referral code will give you $5 to invest immediately. Public.com will allow you to connect with your friends. You can make new friends and use tools to learn how to properly invest in the stock market. And looking at our schedule coming up for this week, Thursday, check out brand new episode of Women in Motorsports. And I know that they're going to preview the W Series race in Budapest. A lot of people looking forward to that. And then Saturday, Grid Live pre-race. Stay tuned for an official time. Really busy Saturday, so we're going to have to try to squeeze in the Grid Live pre-race show. And then Sunday, once again, in the racing week, Grid Live wrap-up, 90 minutes after the NASCAR Cup Series race at the IMS Road Course. For Ben Snyder, I'm Kobe Lambert from the Podium Finish. Thank you for watching tonight's show, and we'll see you next time.
Don't be an anonymous investor. Join the stock market social media platform, public.com. Invest any amount of money and share with friends and new friends. Discover new opportunities, such as new companies and potential business partners, and useful tools for beginners, and share your experience with friends on public.com. Link in the video description gets you $5 for being a Grid Network viewer. Use the referral code GridNet for your free $5 to invest and start investing and networking on public.com.